it's become a little unnatural to speak in English in this house, but I think that our target in Pakistan has to be, as far as Kashmir is concerned, the international community, which is, as the leader of opposition ably pointed out, acutely and gravely responsible for the current crisis engulfing both the region and the world. I'm concerned that the minister is not here. It is, I think, a very valid concern, and it is not being enforced from the chair, which is very worrying. It is leading us to think that this crucial Kashmir debate arising out of the House of the Federation is really not important to the government of Pakistan, because they are not present. They are present only in token form, which is the Parliamentary Affairs Minister. Even the Kashmir Affairs Minister is not here. Press gallery, please note. Even the Kashmir Affairs Minister is not here, despite the protest that we had made about him being called for, but he's not. There is a large cabinet, maybe there's a cabinet meeting, but according to all traditions and power accrued to Parliament, given the importance of this debate, they should have been in the House. However, it is our job as parliamentarians to record not just our protest, but our voice to be amplified through this Parliament to the international community, that 100 days of the Kashmir lockdown, curfew, Section 144 have wreaked havoc in the valley. They have transformed what was the present, the nightmare that young people are imagining is their future, and it is redefining the contract that this disputed valley, and it is disputed with the rest of the world, with the United Nations, which must be asked and tasked to look at this crucial dispute. Why? Everybody has given, two members have given a long and exhaustive, comprehensive chronology of this nature of the dispute, that it is a humanitarian crisis of untold proportions, now routinely being ignored by the world. And what is the good news is that 50 US congressmen have written to Donald Trump about this issue. But the ministers of Pakistan's government are not present for the critical debate in this House. The ministers are not present, and they are not available. They have better things to do than to convene and listen to the Senate of Pakistan give its views and support to Pakistan and to the people of Kashmir on the Kashmiri dispute. So I want to record this, that 50 US congressmen have convened a meeting and they have written letters. The United Nations has come out with 2 reports. I have yet to see a report from the government of Pakistan. Is there a report? Has anyone seen a report? If it is a matter of existential crisis and importance to us, which it is, I think we all agree that it is, then what is going on? A few days ago, the Modi Sarkar changed the map of India quietly, and they tried to bring in the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has disputed this, but it is not mandated by Pakistan. India and New Delhi and the Modi Sarkar has blatantly rejected the United Nations view for the first time in the history of its inception from 1948, when this issue was on the docket. And they have changed the map. Until now, it was disputed territory. There would be Pakistan, there would be India, and there would be these 2 colored zones. I think we've all seen the zigzag. Now, India has changed that. It is attempting to do much more. There is a history now of conflict. There have been 3 to 4 wars, And now we have spoken about the strategic threat to Pakistan. We have spoken about the issue of water, which they are seeking to weaponize. We have spoken about the risk to regional stability, which they are seeking to ignore. And we are also ignoring what, and I suggest that the international community pay attention. They are ignoring the fact that Kashmir lies at the heart of a nuclear flashpoint. And these are not my words, these are Sabiq President Bill Clinton's words. He said these are two nuclear countries which lie cheek by jowl. No nuclear country in the world has a contested border between them. Kashmir is that terrain. And we are here in full force, despite our differences, to stand by and declare our commitment to not just the humanitarian crisis, which is acute in Kashmir, it's acute and actually very few like that in the world, but also to the self-determination root cause of the problem. It was not mentioned very often at the United Nations. There were lots of other things said this session by Pakistan. Self-determination was a line mentioned in the end. And that is the reason that the fifth generation of Kashmiris, from the Dogra Maharajas to today, are putting themselves in the face of 900,000 military occupants in this valley. They stand bravely, unarmed, nihatte log hain, unarmed, sometimes with stone pellets, sometimes with just their conscience and their belief in their right to determine their future. The entire political opposition and what used to be the government of Indian-held Kashmir, when they attempted after Sheikh Abdullah to integrate Kashmir politically, sits in jail even today. A mockery is being made of justice, of international law, and of the United Nations by current-day India. It is a mockery because Pakistan has not mandated this dispute. It is United Nations again, and we must repeat that. There are 11 resolutions, Madam Chairman, that mandate such a plebiscite and call it a disputed territory and initiate action. We are very happy that the UN Security Council took it up, but really it was through no efforts of ours. It is a grave irony of history that in 1948 it was Jawaharlal Nehru who took this dispute to the United Nations with very little intention, I would still say, and there is chapter and verse to prove it. Even then, even he had very little intention of actually holding a free and fair plebiscite to determine where Kashmir goes. And today also, on August 5th, by this annexation that was unilateral, entirely unilateral, and a slap in the face of the United Nations. It was a slap not to Pakistan, it was a slap in the face of the United Nations and the multilateral order after the Second World War as we have signed on to it. India is a signatory state to the United Nations at all its conventions, many of its conventions. And it is seeking to be a member of the Security Council. It wants a seat at the table, yet it continues to aggravate what is absolutely inimical to international law, to human rights guidelines, benchmarks, and to every law of justice that even its own citizens seek. Today, India is setting up internment centers, large internment centers for non-citizens. It is not allowing Kashmiris, we've talked about buying land, but it is actually, it is running tractors over mass graves. And it is trying, perhaps it may succeed also, if the international community ignores this issue. Hong Kong is back in the front lines, many other disputes are back, but Kashmir has faded from the front headlines. Please look at them. It is only conscientious objectors who are writing from the valley at risk of their lives. And actually, I must mention some from New Delhi. I don't want to take their names because the last time Shujaat Bukhari visited, my old colleague and friend from the days of journalism, visited Islamabad. We were all speaking together at Islamabad Hotel, and a few weeks later he was dead back in Indian-held Kashmir. So it has become now a risk to even speak any truth or a half-truth to power in India. Is this what the greatest democracy of the world has promised? And is this what the West has been seduced by? The culture, the money, the economy, the global muscle of the new India. This is what it is seduced by. Today, Amartya Sen, who is a global laureate, he's an economist, he's at the Harvard University, has written in one of the pieces that are circulating on small sites and some big, because he's a big voice. He said people are afraid now to speak on the telephone about the government of India. Nobody can talk all through India about this issue. And this is Amartya Sen. This is not me. This is not you. This is not anybody from Pakistan's parliament, because we are seen as parties to the dispute. This is Amartya Sen, who is writing and who has told many truths to power, that they are now unable to even speak in India about what is going on, about the unspeakable atrocities going on. And the unspeakable atrocities continue. They put microphones in front of young men whom they are torturing, and they relay the sound of that microphone to the rest of the valley, to the area. They go from area to area. This is what 900,000 military security forces are doing in the valley to 8 lakh inhabitants of that valley. They are giving them a message. This is what will happen to you when you come out of curfew or you break that curfew. So when they attempt to break the curfew, they look around and they feel alone, because the world seems to have abandoned them to their plight. You see, they are Muslim. Madam Chairperson, the issue is that they are Muslim. And I did not want to say this. I do not ever want to say this, because there are many, many people who will stand up and speak for the rights of universal justice. But East Timor is exactly a similar dispute on the dockets of the United Nations. And that has been solved according to the wishes of its people. So obviously, the Muslims of the subcontinent, with this unfinished business between them of partition, are not given this due. Why were we not able to remind the United Nations of this? While it is important to do business with one's neighbors, the Kartarpur corridor was something the PVP has always supported. And it's a crucial message of peace. But was it not unilateral among so many other things? What message did it send to the valley? The timing. We wanted to go forward. We will always support peace. But peace must be with justice. I will not speak about the 12 things that are outlined. I will not hide behind history. I think we have to address what is happening in the present and speak our truth to our power. That we must support the Kashmiris at all international forums and their right of self-determination. It is not just the mass blindings that are taking place. It is not just the rapes, the tortures, the forced marriages now, where they openly mock Kashmiri women and say, now we will marry them. And obviously, the internments, we know nothing about those, because the story is once again being contained, and that is New Delhi's gambit. Their goal is to contain the story, and this way they will contain the dispute, this way they will protect their reputation, and the world will continue to do business as per normal. The letters were written, but importance was accorded, and business went on as usual. And because the Simla dispute was mentioned, and very ably the leader of opposition demonstrated how it did not at any point, nor the Lahore Declaration, preclude the UN's role. This is a joke that many people like to throw in our faces, including India, that it is bilateralized after that. Bilateral discussions on Kashmir because of the Kashmiris' plight is a humanitarian gesture no one can ignore. But none of these agreements, please read the text, exclude the United Nations crucial charter under which Kashmir lies. It continues to lie in that charter, and we must remind the world of that. There are unspeakable human rights violations, so gross that we can't present their pictures here. But the root of those violations are a people that is bravely standing up, a fifth generation standing up to protest. And I repeat myself because I don't hear this. I don't hear this, Madam Chairman, in the loud official statement made at the UN. I would have liked to hear a similar speech that Mohtarma Shaheed Benazir Bhutto made at the UN, reminding the UN of their commitment. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank all those countries that have stood by the Kashmiris in their dark night of grave torture, terror, and misfortune. And that is, of course, Malaysia. It is, of course, Turkey. Even Iran made a statement. China has always stood by Kashmir and Pakistan as their own national security stratagem and as friends of Pakistan. So whoever is our friend is Kashmir's friend. And President Mahathir has actually paid a price. They're paying a price in giving up their palm oil. It is their principal export. They are paying a price. So when people used to say the Muslim Ummah, it had become fashionable to say the Muslim Ummah is dead. Actually, it seemed to us it might be. But here, different countries that don't lie at the heart of the Middle Eastern belt have spoken out. Southeast Asia and South Asia are one of the largest Muslim populations in the world, and kudos to all these countries for having the courage to take on India at the United Nations, at all multilateral forums, and also paying a price for it. My last point, Madam Chairman, is that we need to also tell the world that this is not an issue that can be contained like the story. These people are brave. Kashmiris have spoken out for 5 generations. They have never accepted tyranny. And this is tyranny worst confounded. In all annals of history and law, it is like medieval tyranny. And they will continue to speak out, with or without anyone, and this issue will not die down. A colleague of mine mentioned the Kashmir Committee as having its principal task of finding Pakistan free of terrorism. So with great respect, I would like to say that is the task of the government of the day. We are not here today to talk about that. But yes, one of the problems with the reason shown to Pakistan and told to Pakistan is our record in FATF and other things. Yes, we are at a weak moment in Pakistan. But we are economically weak, we are also politically weak. Every single embassy in this country, in Islamabad, is asking, when will Pakistan become politically stable? When will this government stand up and be mature? Because, Madam Chairperson, you must have noted, even when Pulwama, when our boundaries were crossed by a hyper-muscular India, showing its muscle after 1971, testing our waters, testing our capabilities. Well, they saw our conventional capability, and were rudely awakened after 1971. But the Prime Minister did not come together. He did not come and brief a waiting group of political and parliamentary leaders who waited for him 1 hour. Is his ego more important? I'm not going to make this speech outside Pakistan. These are things I want to address here, and it is my right to ask. Why did he not? And again, when the Kashmir dispute arose, he could not convene a meeting. He did not convene a meeting. Could not, did not, would not. No one has explained why. This is a parliamentary tradition. It is a political tradition. We had egregious differences with the previous government when they called a Kashmir conference in one of the rooms in Prime Minister's Secretariat, and there was no terrible crisis at this point, but they called a conference because it was looming, and we went. Our participation at the highest level, Chairman Bilawal went, every party went, was not conditional. It was conditional on nothing. And when we speak to them, they say, you are seeking a deal, you are seeking an NRO. At a time of existential crisis, this is what you ask? So, Madam Chairman, this country is facing risks. It is facing strategic risks. It is facing economic risks. Strategic because you hear people like Rajnath Singh and actual ministers of India saying that we will go to war with Pakistan. And they are not fringe lunatics. They are now mainstreamed in the heart of political India. This is the message they keep giving. So yes, there is a strategic risk. They have, as you know, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but 7 of India's 9 commands are configured against Pakistan. 7 of their 9 commands. 81% of India's Air Force bases, all their forward bases that used to be what called forward bases in times of war are now regular bases. In these, 81% of India's Air Force bases and 7 missile groups are configured against Pakistan. I am pretty sure our military is cognizant and ready. I would like to know, after the Ayodhya verdict, when India declared the mosque that had been raised in the 1990s, I think it was 1992, and built by Babur, to be a place of Indian Hindu worship as a clear message to India and to its minorities that you don't matter. What did we say? What about those 14 million Muslims in there? So, you know, I know that somebody from the government will stand up and say, we protect our minorities, India doesn't. That is not the debate. We have a long way to protecting our minorities. But yes, through all our collective pressures, I don't think that a mandir can go down in Pakistan, and most mandirs, frankly, are in Sindh. I don't think a mandir can go down and just stand rubbished. It has to be rebuilt. There is a public outcry, and for that I say all parliament, all civil society is responsible, and we are grateful for that, for the change that we are trying very hard to make. But there are egregious deficits still in how we define our citizenship. Yet India is redefining it in regressive ways, in ways that fascists define their country against the other. They are otherizing every Muslim. Muslims are lynched for carrying beef, for trying to just say who they are, for registering in getting a flat in Mumbai. It's very difficult. We don't even know how they live. Their stories are all hidden. So we must pay attention to what is happening to Kashmir. We must pay better attention. I would have liked to see a joint session of Parliament. I don't think it's funny. I would have liked to see a joint session of Parliament the day they declared the map of India changed. But there wasn't one. I know, without thinking, that our government would have done it for 2 days at least. And I'm sure another government would have done it. This one has taken a lapse on this, and I'm sorry about that. I hope we can change this. and remind our commitment to Pakistan's commitment to the people of Kashmir as undying and sensitive to their inalienable right to self-determination. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. आप प्लीज बैठे, मैं बात कर रही हूँ, फिर आप खड़े हो जाइए. मैं बात करती हूँ, मैं बात करती हूँ. देखें, मैं इसी पे बात कर रही हूँ. आप अगर बैठे हैं, मैं बात कर रही हूँ. आपको लीडर ऑफ द हाउस प्लीज, यहाँ पे कोई भी नहीं है, देख लें. आपको बार बार कहा जा रहा है कि मिनिस्टर को बुला लें. इम्पोर्टेंट इशू है, सब बात करना चाह रहे हैं. अगर कमेटी के चेयरमैन भी आ जाए कश्मीर कमेटी के, तो लेकिन बैठे, मैं बात कर रही हूँ. मैं बात कर रही हूँ, मैं बता रही हूँ उनको, मिनिस्टर आ जाए. इनके आप लीडर ऑफ द हाउस, आप बैठ जाए जी. मैं बात कर रही हूँ, मैं उनको यही वो कर रही हूँ. आपको जी बताया गया था, आप बता दें कि वो आ रहे हैं, क्या है, बिकॉज इतने इंपॉर्टेंट ये इश्यूज हैं. वी वांट कि वो पॉइंट जो है वो नोट किए जाए, और ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ बात पे बात की जाए. मैं जी मैं सेनेटर साहब, बेरमन तंगी साहब, आप बैठ जाएं. बस लीडर ऑफ द हाउस प्लीज काइंडली आप जरा उनको बुला लें. तब तक सेनेट वो भी आ जाए, वो भी तो सुने.